Dave Corinth here. Welcome to my shop. Recently, I've had a lot of requests to make a video on how to tighten a loose lateral lever. So for today's video, I want to show you the tricks that I use to make that sound go away. So let's get started. So if you're new to hand planes and you don't know what the lateral lever is, well, it's this little piece of metal right here. And this allows you to move the iron side to side to make sure that the leading edge of that iron is parallel with the surface that you're planing. The lateral is held onto the frog with a pin that is pinned over from the underside to the frog. And over time, it can get loose. The more a plane is used, the more likely it is this lateral is going to be loose. And this one's not too bad, but it's loose enough that I want to tighten it up. The lateral can also get bent, and this happens when the iron has been ground down, leaving the top edge of the lateral exposed. And on a plane with a broken horn, there's really nothing to stop that lateral from getting bent by placing another tool on top of it or even dropping the plane. So today I'm going to kill two birds with one stone. We're going to fix both of these laterals, the one that's bent and of course the one that's so loose that when I pick it up it just slides to the side. So if you had bought a Stanley plane in 1910 or 1911, something like that, that's about when this one was made, the lateral would not have been loose at all. As a matter of fact, it would have been stiff. This one takes a little bit of effort to move it side to side. That's because that pin is pinned over from the underside and it's stiff. And over time, as you use the plane more and more, of course, that little pin wears down because cast iron is harder than the metal that was used on the pin, and you get a loose lateral. So these are the tools that I'm going to use to straighten that lateral and tighten that lateral up. First, I have a punch, and this one is blunted. It's not pointed. I have this little block of wood that I cut a slot in the top so that it can accept the thumb tab on the lateral and lay flat. And then I have it the exact same thickness as what I'm using for an anvil, which is this piece of bronze. It's very important that these are the exact same height. So if you don't use a chunk of bronze, I have a piece of steel or something like that, you want this piece of wood to be the exact same height as whatever you're using as your anvil. And of course I have a ball peen hammer, and this is an 8-ounce. It doesn't need to be any bigger than that. So the pin we're going to peen is right there, and we're going to peen it from the back side, which is easy to access. But from the front, it's a little more challenging because that little pin is very close to the little rotating disc. And to hold it on an anvil, and to hold the punch, and to strike it with a hammer, you almost need 3 hands, which I don't have. So I've basically made this setup so that I don't have to hold the frog with my hands. I take the block of wood that is the exact same height as what I'm using for an anvil, and it supports the other end of the frog so I don't have to hold it with my hands. I have a little 1/2-inch slot milled into my anvil that receives this 7/16 rotating disc, and that allows the frog to sit further back on the anvil so I'm not right on the edge and accidentally knock this thing over to the side and then accidentally hit the frog and break something or damage the lateral. It just makes it a little bit easier. So before I peen this, I want to show you just how loose this lateral is. And it's pretty loose. It also has a lot of slop up and down. You can actually see that pin moving. So with my wood block in place, I'm just going to slide the frog over, and then I'm going to slide it into that slot so that the pin is actually on top of the anvil. So as I'm hitting that pin, I'm going around the outer edges in a circle. I'm just trying to peen the soft metal of that pin enough to make that lateral a little bit stiffer. If you hit it too hard or expand that pin too much, you can crack the casting. So now when I lay the frog on the side, you can see that lateral doesn't just flop down. It's just stiff enough that I can easily move it with my fingers, and I don't have that up and down slop anymore. Now I can already hear the questions. What if the pin doesn't spin and the lateral comes off that pin? How do you fix that? you buy a new lateral, because this pin is supposed to spin in the casting. And if it doesn't, and you try to peen that over, which there's not much material there to peen, it's just going to wear out faster, because if this pin's not spinning, then these two softer materials will wear down very fast. So you're better off just to buy a new lateral. They can be bought. There's plenty of guys on eBay that sell them. You can contact Michael Jinks at Just Plain Fun, and he'll sell you one for just a few bucks. And then to install it, you just have to do the exact same thing that we just did and peen that pin over once it's in the frog. Now I want to go ahead and straighten this lateral, and I am going to use some of the same tools. I'm going to use this block. I'm going to use the anvil to set the block up, but I'm not going to use this ball peen. I'm going to use this little hammer because it has a neoprene head and a brass head, but I want to hit it with the neoprene head so that I don't mar up the surface of this lateral. So all I have to do is put the thumb tab in the slot and then tap it with the neoprene side till it straightens it out. And what I'm doing is I'm actually lifting up on the frog a little bit just to make sure that I'm getting enough force to straighten this thing out. You'll see me lift this up as I'm doing this. And it's pretty close now. I just want to give it a couple more taps. And you don't want to hit your finger. But that is a pretty straight lateral. So after a few light taps with this punch and this ball peen hammer, I don't have to listen to this thing clankety clank 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 around anymore. Now it's quiet as a church mouse. And showed a quick and easy way to straighten a bent lateral. Now you may not have a giant chunk of bronze like I do. I picked this piece up from a machine shop about 20 years ago that was going out of business. But you can swing by any machine shop and ask them if they have any scrap steel laying around. A piece of steel, a 1/2 inch thick, 4 inches by 4 inches would work perfect. Just make sure you make the wood block the exact same thickness. You only need it to be thick enough to clear the tip of the yoke. Comment, like, and subscribe, and I'll make more. And of course, thank you for watching. Don't get your fingers under that. Ow!